My name's Matt Cornock, and this is a recording of a session that I presented at the Association for Learning Technology conference in October 25. And this video captures some of the ideas and the thinking that I had leading up to this session, this workshop on the institutional readiness for the future of education. In this workshop, there were a number of scenarios that were presented, and the delegates all provided their feedback and worked through some of those situations, and I've captured those on my own blog space as well. So, why are we looking at the institutional readiness for the future of education? What does the future of education look like? Well, if we look at something like the LinkedIn Work Change Report, which really foregrounded the place that AI, artificial intelligence, was going to make in the workplace. Back in January 2025, they were claiming that static credentials and one-and-done learning are becoming a thing of the past. The future is all about building careers through continuous learning and upskilling, with AI leading the way. Now, this is perhaps unsurprising for LinkedIn, which obviously one of their main products is LinkedIn Learning, where it's full of short courses and ways to continuously learn and develop. But there is actually something quite important here about how this type of learning fits in with what formal education providers and institutions actually offer right now. The World Economic Forum, in their report, The Future of Jobs, said that 39% of workers will have a skill set that is outdated or transformed over the next 5 years. And the Kelly Global Rework Report, Workforce at a Crossroads, said that 65% of the global executives that they spoke to say their organisations are moving from degree requirements to skills-based hiring. Martin Bean has been championing the skills-first approach to education, and from a report all the way back in 2019 by Hagel and colleagues for Deloitte's Centre for the Edge, they say that we need to focus on enduring human capabilities. These are the capabilities inherent in all human beings that represent curiosity, imagination, creativity, empathy and resilience, that's cultivated through use or deliberate experiences. So those designed learning experiences really can be categorized here in those deliberate experiences and exposure. Going back to the World Economic Forum report, The Future of Jobs, analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility, leadership, social influence. These are key skills that will enable workforces to adapt and respond to the challenge of our artificial intelligence making its way into employment and changing the nature of the work that we do. These are key skills that we can actually foster and develop through formal education as well. And then literally the week before I presented this at the ALT conference, the government released their post-16 white paper, which is really showing a shift of the language from meeting employers' needs about 20 years ago to something a bit more sophisticated, an ecosystem, a skills system that's designed for people to adapt to what's changing around employment, workplace and industry now. So if you compare these two documents going back to 2003, the skills strategy, that forward there looking at ensuring employers have the right skills to support the success of their business, and then moving that to the more recent white paper where we're looking at a skills system that supports young people, employers, workers and job searchers to navigate the changes in the job market, giving people the skills they need to adapt to the digital age and equip the whole workforce, including, crucially, acknowledgement that people don't have a continuous career, they have a varied learning journey, career breaks, different ages, different contexts that everyone has as a human being going through their learning journey through life. So actually, what I was also finding really interesting is the comparison between the focus on the skills strategy in 2003 didn't really mention higher education. It sort of signposted to foundation degrees in another document, whereas in the 2025 paper, post-16 incorporates further education, higher education, and other forms of learning and training as well. So a couple of years ago I presented this diagram, which is a spectrum of designed learning experiences, tapping into immediate needs that people might have in their day-to-day job, which can be addressed through micro-learning. So, a short article or a short video or very quick way of addressing those immediate needs, all the way through to something that's more anticipatory, where you're not necessarily sure what you're going to gain as you start that experience, but you know through that experience you're going to be developing a load of skills and knowledge and applying those to different things that's going to build up your portfolio of skills that you can apply to a broader range of contexts. It's more anticipatory and they're longer term objectives, and that's really where the place of the degree sits. And in between those two levels of micro learning and degree, you have everything else. There's short courses, professional courses, micro credentials, credit bearing or non-credit bearing, from 2 weeks to 2 months or beyond. And all that is a spectrum of designed learning experiences that enables individuals to select and choose what type of learning, training or education best meets their needs at that point and in preparation for the future. And there are some really good examples out there now of thinking differently about how formal education can support individuals in their learning journey. For example, London School of Economics Certificate in Professional Advancement. Any 3 courses can be chosen over 2 years to get that certificate. We also know that non-higher education institutions are really active in this area as well. So Coursera is an example with their professional certificates, partnering with Google, Microsoft, IBM, Meta and AWS, just to name a few. Over 200 courses there supporting those professional certificates which have industry relevance. And then Deakin University really leading the way with stackable short courses into postgraduate programs. So it's not simply about the provision of one type of course addressing one type of learning need. We actually need to create an ecosystem that enables lifelong learning to be defined by the learner, as opposed to educational programs which are defined by institutions. So institutions come along with a program set of objectives, a pathway of modules through them, with entry criteria and inclusion and exclusions in there. But actually, lifelong learning journeys are defined by the learner. They are going to choose what type of experience is going to help them meet their needs, both in short term and long term. But we need to create the ecosystem for that, from discovery through to enrolment processes that are appropriate and scalable, the learning experiences, and then beyond that, how that learning can be transferred into workplace learning and individual practice to enable that individual success. But we also need to bridge both the educational spaces and the professional spaces. They cannot be isolated, and we really need to look at the connections between those two at every stage in that ecosystem and in every stage of an individual's learning journey. So how do we, as educational professionals, actually shape the future of education in our own institutions? Well, there are 4 areas really that digital educational professionals can really inform practice, starting with the ideas of digital capabilities and digital confidence, enabling individuals to engage with education in an online way, in a digital way. But then also thinking about the platforms, the integrated learning spaces, the architecture of how these educational experiences will actually operate. We have a lot of experience in here looking at the pros and cons of different platforms and spaces and how they will enable that ecosystem to exist. And then the design of experiences, that inclusive design and digital accessibility is such an important part of what we do, as well as the curriculum design and activity design in collaboration with subject matter expertise and academic teams. So each of these areas are where educational technologists and learning designers operate, and these are the conversations that we can influence and that also influence our practice. And I'm just going to finish on an idea here from Leymeister, talking about collective intelligence, this idea that we have a group of individuals who will have different viewpoints. They will have different perspectives, different experiences that can actually lead us towards a better explanation or different solutions to a specific problem. And this intelligence, this idea of not just knowing, but the ability to learn, to understand and adapt to environments as things change around us. And if we look at where education is right now, there is a lot of change. So I suppose my argument here is that we can only really adapt to this change by working together and bringing in that different expertise. And of course, where digital education professionals, academic colleagues, industry professionals can all work together. Thank you for your time. I hope that's been interesting. I've written up a little bit more of this on my website as well, so you can see some of the outputs from this workshop from the conference and some of the responses to a set of scenarios that I gave to help us think about the potential that we have working together and where the future of education may well lead us.